Awesome. All right, I'm going to say that again. Happy Thursday night, Thursday, February, oh Lord, March the 9th. And we are on element 6, your path to a healthy weight. In this element, we will set a goal to help you reach a healthy weight as part of a lifelong transformation. We're going to explore the phases of weight management, and we're going to determine where you are and learn new habits to begin creating your healthy weight. And I love how Dr. Anderson talks about creating it. Like we create our own wellness. So in the same way we can take away from our health and wellness, the beautiful thing is we can create it. And each of us are going to do it a little bit different way. We need to utilize all 6 of the habits that we've been talking about, but the way that we do it, or which habit we start with, or kind of how we dive into that habit is very individual to each of us. And the emotional management that we talked about in element 4 and element 5 is really awesome. That is really, I believe, one of the biggest keys to keeping the weight off, as so many of the things that cause us to kind of jump for instant gratification items that kind of set us off track and things like that. A lot of that comes from emotional management. So if we can get emotional management under control, that really helps us be committed and excited and wanting to do the habits. So Dr. Anderson said, the creative process is what's going to be at the center of all the key aspects of our transformation. So here's the other thing that I love that we already talked about, healthy mindset habits, because to get into our creative and thinking brain, we have to be thinking above the line. So we have to build that awareness first of, are we a victim, villain, or hero in our thoughts during the day? And if we are, how can we pop out of that emotional Labrador brain and jump into our creative thinking brain? So a big part of the beginning of this journey, after we get really good at just kind of getting the feelings on board and doing that part, the next big part is just building that awareness of our thoughts, and if they are above the line or below the line. And having below the line thoughts does not make you a bad human being. It's actually something that we are genetically engineered to do. 10,000 years ago, we had to be super sensitive to negative things in our environment for survival. So our brain, even though it's been 10,000 years since we needed that, our brain is still wired to do that. But since we aren't looking out for saber-toothed tigers or bears or things like that, or dinosaurs or whatever, we're just going through our day, it's going to pick up on other things that really don't need to put us in that fight or flight mode, but they do. And that gets us in that victim, villain, hero thinking that can put us below the line. And have you ever heard somebody say, don't make a decision in a high emotional state, because it's not going to be a good decision, right? So if you're really angry and you're like, I'm never going to talk to you again, and then you think, wow, that was really stupid. I didn't need to make that decision right then. So that's what we're talking about, is switching to that above the line behavior, is getting your brain to get out of the emotional realm and back into that creative thinking realm. And so I'm sorry to go over that for so long, but I think it's so important to kind of understand where Dr. Anderson is coming from as we dive into this element. What that means about being able to create our wellness is we need to spend more time in that above the line thinking, which is out of the emotional brain and in the calm thinking, creative part of our brain. Approximately 85% of people who go on a diet gain all their weight back and then some in 2 years. And that is because just changing your exercise and eating habits, that can make the scale move. That can make fat move out of the body. We all have done it. How many of you have done a diet and like, whoa, I lost the weight, and then woo, you gained it back and then some? I have many, many, many times. But now I'm at a place, you guys, I lost 50 pounds 6 years ago and I've kept it off. And it's because of what I did in this book. And it's about building the habits that support the healthy choice making, that makes it so that when the fuelings have done their job and gotten the weight off, we have all these wonderful healthy habits on board that keep the weight off, like being a grazer, right? Eating 6 times a day, which creates, what do we do when we eat 6 times a day and there's smaller meals? Creates natural portion control in our stomach. It's like getting the stomach band, but we're doing it naturally because we're just eating smaller, more frequent meals. It keeps our insulin level stable. When you're not spiking and dropping and spiking and dropping, it's a lot easier to feel good and have good energy and stay out of the below the line thinking and in the happier creative thinking part of the brain. All of these things are working together. We're getting good sleep. We're drinking the water. We're getting healthy motion in. All of this works together so that when we're done with our fuelings, if we keep utilizing those other habits that we've worked hard to create as a new habit, then that's how you keep the weight off. There's no magic to it. It's just that. And I will tell you, honestly, before we move on, you know, in my 6 years of doing this, I have times where I'm doing great, I'm doing great, I'm doing great. Something happens that's really emotional and I screw up. And then I'm like, all right, I get back into it. I'm doing great, I'm doing great. There's a big structure change in my life. And I screw up and then I come back and I'm good. So this is it's just it's until it becomes autopilot, you just keep going. But I will tell you something that's going to make you feel really good. And that is, as we build these habits and we build this awareness of our thoughts and our choices, when you do have a moment where you slip down and you might fall back into some old behaviors, number one is they don't give you the joy and the satisfaction that they used to. So very quickly you go, oh, I don't even know why I did that. This is not even, I don't even want to do this. So it becomes harder and harder to go back to the old patterns of behavior because you're creating new ones. That's where the lifelong wellness comes from and how we keep that weight off. On page 154, you're going to see it talks about the weight management phase. So, you know, we're not going to really go into a lot of the nitty gritty of it, but he's just going to kind of go into kind of how we figure out where we are and where we want to be. And then we'll start diving into it in element 7. So you start out maybe overweight, obese. Not everyone starts out on this journey for that. Some of us start out for, we just need mental health and wellness, right? And we aren't overweight or obese. We might be a little bit over, or we might be where we should be, but maybe it's not a healthy weight still. So then we move to phase 1, which is weight loss. Then we get to phase 2, where we've reached that healthy weight. Okay. And then that's when you start transitioning off of the fuelings and you start trying things on your own, right? And you go right back to working very closely with your coach when you do that, because they want to make sure you're comfortable with the habits you've got on board. And if there are any that you're not super comfortable with, you can get those locked down as you transition. Then you have phase 3, which is optimization, which means your autopilot is healthiness, is wellness. You don't even think twice about it. It's just your natural state. And then phase 4 is you can start looking into longevity. What are the things you can do now that you're in a healthy place to, you know, to be well up until the day you're called home? So we use 3 different measurements to assess your current phase in your weight management. Okay, so if you're starting in weight management, bear with me here. If you're not, that's okay too. This is interesting stuff. So on page 155, you've got the body mass index chart. Now I'm going to tell you something about this chart. We are not all built the same. Okay, Kenny Moore, if he was here, he loves to talk about this because Kenny Moore has a bigger frame. And so what is the healthy weight for him here? His doctor says, actually, it's more for you, Kenny. You need to weigh more than that. When you get into where this chart says you're in the healthy zone, you're actually starting to enter a too low zone. So just use this as kind of a general idea of where you should be. So what you can do is you can find your height down on the left side of the chart. Then you can move over on the right-hand side and find your weight. And then that'll tell you where it's at. So for example, I'm 5'9". So I'm not 120 pounds. I am 160 pounds. So I am in the healthy category, but I'm on the edge, y'all. Like Allison can't gain 10 more pounds or I start to move into the overweight category. So really, one of the things I want to do since I've taken the 50 pounds off is I'd like to maybe shave off another 5 or 10 just to push me a little bit further back from being so close to that other part. So this is one way that you can look and see kind of where you are right now. If you look on page 156, your waist circumference. So how many of you guys have heard about that the belly fat, what we carry around our waist, that visceral fat is actually the most dangerous fat on our body. When the fat that gets deposited around our waist is the fat that really causes a lot of problems. So when you start to see that waist circumference move down, that means really, really good things are happening in your wellness. It means your organs are running well. It means you're eating things that are being processed and utilized and processed on through and out of the body. They're not being stored as fat. So as that waist measurement shrinks, that's a really good indicator of your body's running really well. It probably means that your insulin levels are nice and stable. It means that you're getting good hydration. It means that you're getting enough healthy motion in every day. So he talks about how to correctly measure your waist circumference. And then he says on the bottom, your health is at risk if your waist is over 37 inches as a man and over 31.5 as a woman. Now, does that mean freak out? No, we are not going to freak out because that's below the line thinking. If your waist is over 31.5, don't freak out. It just means, all right, that's where I'm aiming for. Okay. So that's just another place. And I will tell you, I don't know if this has happened to any of you guys, but you can have a week where you go, golly, I don't feel like a lot happened on the scale, but you pull out that measuring tape and you've lost an inch or two. That's a huge deal. Body fat index. I'll be honest, I have no idea what my body fat index is. There's a way to you get the calipers and you can have your doctor measure that. I have never done that, probably because I don't want to know and I really need to find out. But I just don't want somebody with calipers going on my lumpy parts. But as I'm 6 years out, I probably need to do that. So this, when you go and you measure your body fat, this is important because it helps you see that you're losing fat and not muscle. One of the things our fuelings are designed to do is to really support our muscles during weight loss. A lot of programs, if you just cut calories, but you're still eating junky junk, then you're not, a lot of times your body's going to go and it's going to take from your muscle mass and not from your fat. So that's why I love that the nutritionists and dietitianists at Johns Hopkins designed this so that it doesn't take from your muscles. So you can just take a glance at that chart on page 157 and kind of see where you fall. If you know, I don't know, but I know from the other ones how I'm doing. So that, you don't have to use all three. So on page 158, I'm just going to go over this really quickly. This is just asking the questions about, do you know what phase that you're in currently? Okay. Are you in the overweight phase or the obese phase? I was in the obese phase when I started. I didn't freak out, but I was like, all right, this is where I am. This is where I want to go. A lot of times knowing where you're going helps inspire you to keep going that way. So phase one for me was weight loss. And I was in that phase until I reached these milestones. And then phase two, healthy weight. I am there, but like I said, I'd like to fine tune that a little bit, but that's just me. Phase three is optimization. He's giving the numbers for that again. You'll know when you're in optimization when you reach those numbers. And then the longevity numbers are there on page 159 at the very last part. So that's up to you where you want to go on your journey. But I love having just the information. And that's all it is. It's just information. And it's how you, it's just other ways that you can track how you're doing besides the scale. I don't like us getting hung up on the scale. So on page 160, I filled this out, your current reality, which is your starting point. And then we're going to figure out how to make a structural tension chart to show where we are and where we want to go. So the phase that you're currently in is just that. It's just a phase that you're going to move through. No need to get upset about it or attach a bunch of emotion to it. It's just knowing where we're starting. It's where we're standing on the trail before we hit the trail. All right, 161, creating your first structural tension chart for weight management. Now, in element 3, we talked about how to create a structural tension chart, okay? So we're going to go into it in a little more detail. You'll have many actions and steps that you will add to your secondary choices as we design the series of habits that will support you to reach and optimize your weight management. So let's go see what secondary choices are. So we talked about our current reality. Okay, so that's where we are right now after filling out that little current reality page. Then what are the secondary choices that are going to help us get to our desired results? So for example, I was 211 pounds when I started this journey. I was in the obese category. I was a size 16, working real close to a size 18. So my secondary choices to start moving towards my goal, which let's see, I already forgot. So it was to move towards my healthy weight, was eating 6 times a day, drinking 64 plus ounces of water, making sure I get 8 hours of sleep at night, making sure I don't sit for too long every day. The minimum amount of motion we should get every week is 150 minutes. So that works out to about 15, 20 minutes a day. So just making sure that I don't sit at my desk for too long, that I get up and move around. Doesn't mean I have to go to the gym. Just means I need to get up and move around, walk a little bit. And then that started moving the scale, right? So I started moving the direction I needed to move. So in summary, in this element, it should be much clearer to you now how you can create a healthy weight without going on a diet, right? We're just going to talk about some of the choices we can make, some of the habits of those 6 healthy habit areas. You've probably already done some. How many of you, when you started the journey, cleared out your pantry? Yeah, or your fridge, took out the chips and the crackers and the stuff, right? So, that's a secondary choice, right? That's helping us reach our goals. Some of us went and got a water bottle that holds a certain amount of water, and we know how many of these we need to drink every day, right? That's a secondary choice that's moving us to our goals. Talking with your coach once a week and catching them up on how you're feeling, how you feel like you're doing, things that you feel like you're doing really well, things that you need help with. That's a secondary choice, keeping in touch with them and then letting them connect you to do really well on your goal. So one of the things that helped me was I thought about the things that I did every day as choices and not cheating. If I made a choice that was not awesome, I didn't beat myself up about it, right? It was just a choice. It wasn't a cheat. And I took the time to learn why I made that choice. If it wasn't one that was really helping me get to my desired result, if it wasn't part of my secondary choices, I asked myself why I did it. And I found out a lot about myself. I found out I wasn't good at processing stress, right? I found out I wasn't good. I was an emotional eater, and I was also a nighttime eater. So knowing those things, I could set myself up for success and have less and less of those times that I made choices that didn't get me to my desired result. It's so important. Another thing I wrote down was I wanted to bring my mind along with my body. These fuelings are so great, right? They really do help us start to get the weight off. But I knew if I didn't bring my mind along, that the minute I got to the end of utilizing the fuelings for weight loss, it was going to be like any other program I'd ever done, and I was going to start gaining it all back. I was tired of riding that merry-go-round. So I knew I needed to get my brain on board. And this book has everything you need to bring your brain along with your body so that these healthy habits you're making while the fuelings are doing their job stick after you're done with them. And another big thing was just taking ownership of my journey, taking ownership of my success. If I'm making choices and I keep making choices that are not taking me towards my desired result, am I asking my coach for help? If I'm not, the onus is on me, right? Am I beating myself up? Am I thinking below the line? Am I getting in my life book or not? I just started taking ownership of my choices. This journey is yours. It's beautiful, and it's a chance for self-discovery. It's an incredible place to heal here and here. It's not just about the food. And so I love that structural tension chart can just kind of help us stay focused on what we're doing. And when we have times that we don't make good secondary choices, we don't beat ourselves up anymore. We don't talk nasty about ourselves. We go, hey, I bet there's a reason I did that. I'm going to ask my coach and see if she and I can figure out why it is I keep tripping up right here, and then come up with something else to put in that spot that's a better choice than the one that my brain keeps asking me to make. Like I wanting the 2 glasses of wine on Friday night because I've had such a week. But maybe the problem is I'm just not good at processing my stress during the week. If I could get to Friday and not be stressed out, then I wouldn't want that glass of wine, right? So your coach is there to really help you work through that and start to see the reason behind the times that we don't make the choices that are getting us to where we want to go. Does anybody have any questions? This was a shorty tonight. This was a short one. This was man, it was interesting, but it's just kind of a pause and check where you are. And then so that you know where you're going and you can see your progress other than the scale. Does anybody have any questions about any of the charts or anything? It's pretty straightforward. But if you get off of the this Zoom tonight and you think, oh, I should have asked Allison this, don't worry about it. You just reach out to your coach and they can help you with that question. But tracking things is great, and just utilizing what we've learned so far, especially element 4. Man, that's a good one. Element 4 and element 5, which is that above the line, below the line thinking, because we can't create new wellness without being in that creative part of our brain. And we can't be in the creative part of our brain if we're always in drama and chaos, which is that below the line thinking. And that is in element 4 if you want to read some more about that. But I'm going to go ahead and press stop on the recording.